Tips for batch making cards? Yes, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Brennan and welcome to
Brennan's Crafty Corner.
Hi everyone, my name is Brennan and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be making some Christmas cards with Erica, who you also may know as Kaka Crafts on Instagram, and we're going to be batch making some Christmas cards. Now I'm going to be sharing some tips in my video on how to make that process better. But if you're like, I hate Christmas in July, that's totally okay, because these tips can be applied to all batch making, whether you're making Christmas cards, Halloween, birthday, thinking of you, Valentine's Day, whatever. These tips will still apply. Also, just a quick note, you may be noticing like, hey, this video is on Thursday and not Wednesday. We just had a scheduling conflict, so we bumped it a day to Thursday instead of Wednesday, which I think is even more perfect to finish off the Christmas in July series, because it's the last day of July, so like, that worked out well. Now it's time to sit back, relax, enjoy this card making, as well as the tips on how to batch make your cards even better.
So, the first tip I have for you is to choose a limited color palette. We don't need to be doing 15 color ink blends. We don't need to have 25 Copic markers on our images, but we can be simple, strategic, and create stunning cards with limited colors. And that's why I'm going to be starting with a tone-on-tone background. I'm going to be using some Aqualicious cardstock from Altenew, and I have 6 card fronts chopped up here. These are all 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I have the Grand Greenery stencil from Simon Hurley, and I'm going to be doing some simple ink blending with Fiesta Blue. It's not quite tone-on-tone, but it's similar enough. I want this to be slightly darker, so like I said, simple. 1 ink pad, 1 color cardstock for the background, and then we'll be done. So I have my stamp wheel here just to hold the cardstock and the stencil in place. And I have my Fiesta Blue ink pad. So 1 color cardstock, 1 ink pad, nothing crazy at all. So now I'm going to place my stencil so the leaves kind of like look like there's a middle. It doesn't have to be perfect. And it won't be exactly the same on every card because obviously we'll be placing this freehand 6 times. In my case, 6 times. If you're doing a different amount, how many ever times you're doing. So now we're going to take the ink. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a pretty fast round on the outside. And I'm going to do this twice because I want the outer edges of the card front to be slightly darker than the middle. So like I said, we're just quickly going around the edges on this first round, and then we'll go in for a second round to darken them up. And now we'll just take whatever residual ink is left on our brush and go into that center to darken it up just slightly. We don't want it to be too dark. And we'll peel and reveal, and bam! Our center is just slightly lighter than our outside. It's not that big of a difference, but I like it. So after doing 6 rounds of ink blending, we have our 6 backgrounds all done. My next tip is to do all your stuff in steps. Don't make one card and then go back and make another, No. We're going to do all of our stenciling at one time, all of our die cutting at one time, so on and so forth. And then my next tip is to be extremely strategic about the supplies you're going to use. An example, I was going to use this amazing die set from Concord and Ninth called Joyful Seasons Dies. Great, it's a wonderful Christmas die set. I was going to use the main die and then maybe some leaves and we would call it a day. However, knowing myself and then looking at this die set, I can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts of letters that I would have to inlay every single time I make this die. So 6 times 6, that's 36. I know that I don't want to be doing that 36 times to make 6 cards. That's just me. You may love that, but make sure you're doing stuff that you enjoy when doing these cards. Because if you're doing a step like that, where sure, I'd be fine to do that on 1 card, but if I'm doing that on 6 cards in a row, I would get bored, I would hate it, it would become very tedious for me, and then I would want to stop. So since you're making so many cards, you want it to be somewhat enjoyable still. So we're not going to be using this die set. Instead, I changed up my plans, and we're going to be using these framelits from Sizzix and Stacy Park. These are Patty's Perfect Triangles, and instead, we're going to be making kind of almost a Christmas tree just out of white cardstock. Very simple, but I think it will be nice. So I have pulled out the second largest triangle from this set, and as you can see, the design that is debossed into the die cut is separate from the physical die. So instead of having to align it up 6 times, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape it in. You can totally hot foil with these because it's basically a hot foil plate, die that does the debossing because it's all flat and stuff, but for time reasons, I don't want to do that right now. Like I said, that would be something that would be great for a one-time card, maybe 2 or 3, but I don't want to be doing that 6 times in a row. Okay, so we have our two dies here basically lined up and taped in place, so those should stay together and not come apart. I just really like to tape together these Stacy Park dies because it makes it so much easier because I don't want to line this up 6 times. So remember, be strategic. If you can think of hacks with your products to make it even faster, use them. Another tip for you, make sure you have everything prepared and pre-cut. I just looked back at my draws and I do not have any white cardstock pre-cut. Tragedy. So now I have to stop what I'm doing and go back and cut a little. So instead, just make sure before you start everything, make sure you have your supplies ready, pre-cut, everything's available, you have enough of everything to ensure a very smooth process. Because now I'm taking out of the card making and put into cutting cardstock, which I hate. So make sure you're prepared. And now with my pre-cut cardstock restocked, I can get to die cutting. So we have all of our Christmas trees, I guess you could call them die cut. And for my final tip, because we're just gonna keep card making from now on, is you do you. These are your cards. If there's a step that adds a little bit more time and you love it, that is totally okay. For example, I've decided I'm going to do a little just ink blend around the edges of my card fronts because I think it's going to add to the card. You can barely see it on camera, but I promise you it's there. I just like how that looks, and I'm perfectly okay spending a tiny bit more time on it to make the cards look a little bit nicer. Like I said earlier, if I didn't want to do an inlay die cut, but that doesn't mean you can't do an inlay die cut. I didn't want a hot foil, but that doesn't mean you can't hot foil. I'm only doing 6 cards, but that doesn't mean you can't do 40. You can do these however you want. They're your cards. The most important thing is to have fun. As long as you're having fun, that's all you need. Now, just to demonstrate how I'm gonna do this, I'm literally just gonna go around and do like the simplest ink blending just to darken up the edges a little and just add a little bit more depth to our card fronts. And now looking at the camera, that took me literally 30 seconds. So it's a very, very minimal amount of time. It's just a tiny bit more and it's giving us a little bit nicer of a card. So I'm totally okay with it. If you don't want to do this, don't do it. It's literally that simple. So we've added that extra step to all of our card backgrounds now, and I am loving how it looks. It was so worth the extra couple of minutes. Now it's time to add our trees onto the card. And honestly, I think I'm not going to add a sentiment. This may be controversial. I don't always add sentiments to my card right away. Obviously, this is going to be a Christmas card, but I think for now, I'm just going to leave them blank and put the tree on it. Now, in the future, may I add a sentiment? It's very possible. But for right now, I'm just going to do the trees. Once again, I'm going to do something that's going to add a little bit more time to my card, but I think it will be worth it. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of foam tape to the back of the tree to pop it up. I love adding foam tape to cards, even though I hate placing the items onto the cards. If you know, you know. That's my biggest card making enemy, but it's okay. So I'm just going to add foam tape to all these trees, and then I'm just going to plop them on. I'm liking how that's looking, so now I'm just off to do it 5 more times. And our cards are done. We have put them on a card base, so they're actual real cards. I just love how they all turned out. They're really simple, they're really nice, and it took me about 50 minutes to make all these. If you know me, you know it takes me way longer to film a video and make a card than to actually make a card. So this will probably clock in somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes. So super simple, super quick, and really nice cards. I'm still debating if I'm going to add a sentiment later. Honestly, leaning towards no. I really like these on their own, but we'll see.
Okay, guys, I have a secret about this card. My grandmother absolutely hates it. I went and showed her. If you don't know, my craft room is in her apartment. I live in a 2-family house, so my craft room's in her apartment. So I went and showed her, and she was like, "Oh, I do hate." I was like, "You're not gonna like this," and she's like, "Oh, I don't," because she likes traditional Christmas. I don't always like traditional Christmas. So, what are your thoughts on this card? It might be controversial, but obviously I'm right and Grandma's wrong, right? Right? So now, make sure you go check out Erica's video. It's going to be so amazing. I know you're absolutely going to love it. So make sure you go check it out. She's an amazing card maker and you're going to love it. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed this Christmas in July card series. It was really fun to film, and I really hope you start making your Christmas cards early so you don't have a ton of stress when the holiday season comes around. Because guess what? We don't want that stress. We want it to be simple. So we're going to do our cards now. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and hopefully you'll get to get crafty. Bye everyone, and happy crafting!